Hello there, you're very welcome to the breakdown on the Racing Post digital channels in association with Ladbrokes and the final weekend of the Guinness Six Nations for 2019. We're here to talk you through the games and maybe give you a little bit of insight into what might happen in this final weekend. Alongside me, Stephen Ferris, Dominic Ryan and Declan Marin from Ladbrokes. Gentlemen, let's have a look at the table, and Stephen, I'll start with you. It's all about Cardiff and Twickenham this weekend. And Wales in the driving seat. They've been impressive, the most impressive team, and deserved leaders.
Yeah, I think so. Eddie Jones playing the mind games. Wales look tired. They've made a lot of tackles. Well, actually, it's England that's made the most tackles. But I think it's all going to boil down to, can Ireland beat Wales in the Principality Stadium? And I think it's going to be a very tough ask. We've mentioned in the previous weeks, it's all about momentum in this tournament. And Wales have got all the momentum. And they just seem like a team that are at the top of their game, and they're firing at all cylinders. So for Ireland to go there, I think the spread's only a point in it. I think I fancy Wales to do the Grand Slam. Warren Gatland, he's a shrewd operator, and to get one over in Joe Smith would be
absolutely.
It'd be absolutely huge.
Who wouldn't want to do that? You know?
Yeah, listen. when you look at that table, and we've hit the final weekend, it has really turned into a bit of a two-tier tournament, hasn't it? I mean, you look at Wales, England and Ireland, and that they have been so far ahead of what have been. I mean, how disappointed have you been in Scotland and France in particular?
I really thought, like last year's Six Nations, Scotland, beating England at home and getting a few wins together, finishing well. I thought this year, they were going to kick on again, but they've seemed to regress again this year. France, while on paper, should probably be first or second last, and then Italy, while they're performing better, I think. I'd like to see them get a win. They could beat France this weekend, but it'd just be great if they could get a win or two. Hopefully in years to come it'll start to progress a bit better.
Okay, well let's have a look at the market for the Grand Slam. 8 to 11. Any takers at this point?
I think they all got on anti-post. We said at the very first episode that was a big liability in terms of the Grand Slam betting. A lot of people are very, very happy. So bookies will be hoping that Ireland can do the business and beat Wales.
I'd say, because it's been a bad week for the bookies. Yeah. let's have a look at the Six Nations winners. And again, Wales at 8 to 11. Like Ireland are 14 to 1, but you just can't see Scotland beating England, can you?
No, definitely not. Joe Smith in his post-match interviews after the last game was saying, it would take a miracle for them to win it. They're just going to go about their job, try and get a result, and try and build that momentum, get into the World Cup warm-up games. Look, I think this tournament has thrown a load of spanners at everyone, and there's been surprises that have popped up. We've seen Italy play some good rugby. France have just capitulated and have been very, very poor. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was, I said it last week, if there was another surprise in this and another twist in the tail. It's just been that one of those competitions. But,
and do I suggest, as we go on to looking at the games in chronological order, are you suggesting that Italy might be that last surprise to beat France?
I don't know if it'd be a surprise, would it?
I don't know if it'd be a surprise, but
or do you have a bigger surprise in store for us?
As long as England don't win it, I'm happy.
Let's have a look at the match odds for the first game of the day. Well, let's have a look at the teams first, then we'll get to the match odds. The Italian teams, I have to say, they were poor last week. Dominic, they didn't defend well, and I'm shocked to see Esposito playing again on the wing. I have to say he was absolutely, he fell off more tackles.
He was made look like an under 16s, under 18s player. I think he should have been taken off in the first half. Now, granted, he was marking a pretty formidable winger against him, but it was at that level to be sliding off tackles. And considering he's physical enough, but I don't know whether it's then the tackle technique or what, but at international level, you simply can't be missing tackles that easy.
Yeah. It's funny, like the team with Sergio Parise, who's the captain, it seems to function better when he's not playing.
No, and I was going to bring on to that. I mean, and you guys have played in teams where there have been big stars, and when they're on the wane, is their presence can get in the way.
There can be we're okay, he's here, or do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's maybe the Italians think, Sergio, he'll steady the ship for us, and they don't try as hard. Whereas if you're going into a game without Sergio, you're like, oh shit, Sergio isn't playing today. We better try.
We got to step up.
So, it's a fair point.
I don't think personally he's playing that well. He looks a bit lethargic. He looks like he's
He's got a lot of miles on the
He's
clock.
got a lot of miles on the clock, but it was his decision, and I know there was interviews saying that he could become the most capped international of all time if he keeps playing another season. But at the minute, he needs a huge game. If he can have a huge game, then I think Italy have maybe got a chance. Okay, well, let's have a look at the French team, because the French team that have shown some changes as well. I love Maxime Médard going in at fullback. I just think he offers options all over the pitch in attack. He is a phenomenal talent and has been for many seasons. Fofana back into the midfield as well, and they're sticking with Dupont and Ntamack. Are you surprised by that?
No, as I said, last week, I think the youth and they're trying to build for the World Cup, and if you're sticking with Parra and Lopez, two guys maybe a little bit older, a little bit complacent, this is probably given. They're sticking with 9 and 10, the pairing that they have, to maybe give those two a bit of a kick in the ass. Because I've no doubt in a pressure game, Lopez will start at 10, Parra will probably start at 9. But these two boys need kind of big experience. Now, granted, no disrespect, but it's Italy. But they need, international experience, and you need to have a good backup 9 and 10 going to the World Cup that you can, happily, if Parra or Lopez fall. But even saying that, Dupont has been so good at 9. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a starting 9 in the World Cup.
Yeah. I really don't know where to go with this game because France, for me, they've just disappeared out the back gate. Psychologically, they're not playing for their coach. He feels like the wrong fit. It's a team that keeps chopping and changing. There's talent aplenty, but you go to the match odds, and I know we all got in the Italian boat the last time and they got run over by England. Yeah. But there you have it, +10.
I'd prefer to take the +10. I mean, you've seen right across the tournament, Italy have the ability to score points. So let's say Italy goes 7-0 up, after 6 minutes. It's a 17-point deficit all of a sudden, France have to overcome. So I'd much prefer side with the +10, particularly the form of France. It's
Paddy's weekend. Conor O'Shea's the head coach. they're in Rome. There's going to be so much on the line. And I think if there's going to be a performance, they're going to do something for their coach. They are full of passion that this is their final, this is their World Cup final, and if they can get a result against France, then it relieves so much pressure getting into the World Cup.
I'd be the opposite now. I think France -10 looks probably the job here. Not a big fan of the French team, as we mentioned at the start of the tournament. I think they lack savviness. But there seems to be their coach, Brunet, seems to say, there's a quote from him that the team that played against Ireland and England was not the real France team. I don't really know what he means by that. But
because I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows. Yeah, exactly. But there would be a sense that they must have a different plan with the French team at the moment. Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
Well, it goes together, but for this game, you would have to think they've got something else up their sleeve.
The French got to get a foothold in the game. They can't be giving away penalties. If they concede 7 points, they can't kick off, give another penalty away. Yeah. Like against Ireland, they were awful, shocking,
so bad,
so bad. And Ireland didn't really have to do too much to spend the first 40 minutes down in their 22 and camped on their line. So
what was it, 3 minutes or something? France spending.
In the Irish half? They spent less than 30 seconds in the Irish 22 in the entire half.
But 3 minutes in the Irish
half. Yeah. It's beyond. I struggle to remember 2 Tier 1 nations playing in such a lopsided half. It was remarkable. Let's go on to the first try scorer market. Johan Huget got in when Ireland kind of went to sleep in the last quarter last weekend. We're having a double again.
Double odds on all your winning first try score bets if your player goes on to score another try at any point in the game. That's all matches this weekend.
Okay, well I'm going to turn to you because you've become the first try scoring master. So pick one for me, please.
Well, I'm a massive fan of Wesley Fofana. I think Huget's been disappointing. He's kept his place in the team, and I think I'd switch it up. But Wesley Fofana back in midfield, if Bastro can get through the defensive line and he's trailing on the inside, and I think he might slip in for the first try. He's a tremendous player, full of flair, and it's good to see him back in. So Wesley Fofana, for me, at 12-1 would be my tip.
Anybody?
Close your eyes, pin the tail on the donkey.
Brilliant honesty. Listen, let me. It's interesting. I have a sense both of you are kind of angling towards Italy here on that spread. Is that?
Yeah. Granted, they were embarrassed last weekend, but I'll take the +10.
You're going there, and you know what? I hate saying this, but actually take the emotion out of it because I know we all want Italy. I have a feeling he may well be right.
Yeah, I think France might win the game, but I think 10 points, and as Dominic says, if Italy can get a score, 17-point margin early on is a lot of points to catch up.
Given the headlessness of this French team, I wouldn't be saying with massive confidence to pile in on the plus 10 or the minus 10, but yeah, I think they should do it.
I'm going with the bookie on this one. Don't go away from that one. Okay, let's move it on.
You've abandoned your beloved.
You've changed your
You all got in the ship with me, and we didn't do so well last time. Okay, let's get on to the second game of the day, and we'll have a look at the teams. Let's start with this Welsh team, and it's so settled. Look, Stephen, I'm going to draw a comparison with the Grand Slam team of Ireland, which is a decade ago now. There's just a momentum. There's a sense that they have a belief.
Yeah.
And that's a heck of a weapon going into a big game, particularly at home, particularly on the last day.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of that they're unbeatable,
yeah.
And especially at home. I love the back row. Navidi, Moriarty and Tipuric have been superb the whole tournament. They're up against the mighty Irish back row as well, with Sean O'Brien being parachuted back into the squad. CJ Stanner, who was exceptional there last weekend. So I think it's going to be a real arm wrestle.
Do you see any weaknesses there?
I don't like Hadley Parks. Maybe 12 months ago, I might have said.
Yeah, but he's just firmed up. I think he's
been
awesome.
Unbelievable.
Man of the match
man of the match last weekend. Puts his body on the line.
So solid indeed. He's
so
big guy.
And Liam Williams back in. I know he went off injured.
Yeah,
he's back in there.
That's big for them.
That's big.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Donald. I mean, we talk about the in folklore the impact and the presence that Martin Johnson was in the second row for England, and we talk about the presence and significance of Paul O'Connell for Ireland. But this guy, Alan Wynne-Jones, in some ways I feel outside of Wales, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's phenomenal.
Well, that's it. I was literally just about to say it. It's funny you said outside of Wales, because everyone from the outside kind of saying, "Oh, Alan Wynne-Jones, he's that annoying guy who pulls people and causes a bit of a mess." But if you talk to any of the Welsh lads, they have him up on this pedestal that he's the Paul O'Connell type character. And maybe we're saying he's the Paul O'Connell type character because we were Irish and we had Paul on a pedestal. But I think that was a more international thing. You could tell by the Lions, captaining the Lions, how well he's respected, across the British and Irish Isles. I think Alan Wynne-Jones is key to them. And as you said, having someone on the pitch, it's not like Parisi. I think he actually gets the best out of people. They want to perform for him, and he's that kind of captain, versus. We'll take the foot off the gas because Alan Wynne is playing. It's not quite that player.
But I think I just make the point because I feel he probably isn't recognised outside of Wales in the way he should be in World Rugby terms.
I shared a room with him in the 2009 Lions tour for about 10 days before we headed off, and he's not only is he a fantastic rugby player, but he's a great guy off the pitch. And I think all the lads respect him as a rugby player, but they also respect him as a person. And as Dominic says, he gets the best out of people. So he gets the best out of people on the pitch, but he's doing it day in, day out in the training pitch, in the gym, in meetings. And all the boys just seem to gather around him, and he galvanises the whole team. So a huge player.
Terrific leader, terrific player. Let's move on to the Irish team and have a look at Ireland. And a couple of changes there. Rob Kearney comes back in. Not a huge surprise to see Rob come back in for Jordan Larmour, is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he mightn't quite have the attacking prowess Jordan has, but he does solidify that kind of backfield, and he's good in the air. Wouldn't be as exciting, obviously, attacking as Jordan Larmour, but kind of Joe, he likes picking his safe selection.
Yeah, but the safe selection. But there's also, there's a practicality to it, like walking into the Millennium Stadium on a Grand Slam day, particularly if
Rob's been there. He's done it before.
I know where I want to be on a day like that. Maybe not down the road, but right now you kind of understand why he's gone with Rob Kearney, and Kearney's got nothing to prove to anybody at this point. Let's talk about the back row. Sean O'Brien back. He'll have been stung by what happened a couple of weeks ago, won't it? And then being selectively left out, if I can put it that way, last week.
Well, I was speaking in the press there last week that I'm not 100% sure that it was Joe Smith's decision. I think Sean O'Brien maybe said, look, I need to get a bit more fitness done. I don't feel up to speed. Out in Rome, he just wasn't at himself. And he went back and met him at a function, and he said, yeah, I'm back doing fitness and I need it. So that's what he said to me, and he's got a few miles on the clock now down in Leinster, and he's ready to go. He's probably playing in his favourite position with the 7 on his back, and the other two lads are in good form, so I'm excited to see him back in there with another tremendous athlete, and Byrne in the second row. He's like having another back row player on the pitch.
Joe Schmidt must be watching the show after you said it. He's a big gambler, so you know.
Well, let's have a word on Tadhg Byrne, because I read a couple of the Welsh columnists this week saying Tadhg Byrne in an Irish squad, for the Welsh players particularly, having done what he did with Scarlets, will worry them. They will not like seeing Byrne there because they know how good he is. Fair comment?
I think it's fair comment. Yeah, he's been exceptional for Munster this season. Scarlets Player of the Year, Player of the Pro 14 last year, was he?
Yes.
He's just been superb, and having him in there. James Ryan as well, man of the match last week, Ireland versus France. So these are guys who are in form. I think Shawnee's probably the only one that's trying to find his feet. If he can do that this weekend, I think they're going to give Wales a hard time. But as I said, flip the coin over. The Welsh back row and second row are also firing on all cylinders. Let's
have a look at the match betting, and what's your sense of this, sir?
The 5 to 6 about Wales. You might argue it looks a little bit short for such an even game, but it probably does look appealing. Everything looks like it's going their way at the moment. I don't know if maybe you guys work a lot in the media. You might agree. There's been a very positive spin put on the France game, despite the result being quite disappointing given the performance. I'd be a little bit concerned that maybe we're not looking into how poor France were, rather given the likes of Sexton and Murray are back. I'm not sure they'll get the same space, time and creativity for this kind of game. That would worry me. It'll be a low scoring affair, I think, anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, and I guess +1, -1, it tells you everything that you need to know.
I reckon if you've had a bad Cheltenham and you need to get your money back, you back Wales. If you want to double your money, you back Wales.
You're back on Wales.
So okay, I'll ask you to come to a conclusion in a sec, but let's have a look at the try score market and Sensei. What do you say?
Sensei. Yeah, it's tough. I think it's going to be a 3-6-9, 9-6. I think you could be right there.
Really?
With us. Yeah.
You don't see tries?
No, but I think the defences are. They're going to be going full throttle.
Yeah.
And I just think that if there's going to be a couple of tries scored, it's going to be off a massive error. So,
do you think Ireland will kick the corners or will take the points?
Well, I think they're just going to keep doing what they've been doing. Kick to the corner.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that there, then Dominic, you might go for somebody like Rory Best. I know he's not on there, but I think
it is that kind of game. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you kind of avoid the top of the betting. You look further down. Someone like CJ Stander, who had a great game, as you mentioned last time. I think he's about 25 to 1. You could probably get him a little bit shorter as an anytime try score in there as well.
Sure.
So I think that's probably a bit of value on someone like CJ, who's probably due one at this stage because he hasn't got one in a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got so many lovely subplots. And we talk about defence. You talk about Farrell and Sean Edwards, who are arguably the two best defensive coaches in world rugby, or most sought after, that's for sure. Both there. You've got Schmidt and Gatlin both playing in their final Six Nations game.
Open or closed?
My guess is it's going to end up closed. That decision, as we're talking, hasn't been made. But I think Joe will allow it to be closed. The away coach gets to make that call in a strange kind of arrangement with the Millennium Stadium, or with the Principality Stadium as it is now. There's so much going on here. But we still have to call it. So let's call it. Let me start with you, Dominic.
I think Wales, like Declan pointed out, that Irish team wasn't that impressive last weekend. The team obviously was impressive, but the performance was not impressive. That French team were just embarrassing at this stage. I think Wales is an easy bet. I think they'll win by 8 to 10.
Wow. You have it at that, do you? Okay.
You can get, by the way, 5 to 1 about 6 to 10. So if you're Wales, you want to up the value a little bit from 5 to 6. Wales 5 to 10 points at 5 to 1.
Yeah. Stephen?
Yeah, I sort of agree with Dominic. I think Ireland were pretty good against France. France were
poor.
So poor. So it's hard to call. They're not going to get the same time and space in the ball. And go back to what I keep saying, momentum is key, and for me it's a Welsh victory.
Okay, Welsh victory it is for the panel, and I have to say it's hard to argue against that. Let's go to the third match of the day and of the weekend, and the final match of the Guinness 2019 Championship. And in many ways, if you are right and Wales win, this is going to feel like a bit of an anticlimax. But it is what it is, and it is a Calcutta Cup, and you look at that English team, and yes, they were beaten by Wales this year, but there's a momentum for Eddie Jones there now, isn't there? And there's a sense that they are kind of finding their mojo at about the right time, heading towards a World Cup. I look at that team, and if they stay injury-free, reasonably injury-free, and they get into a rhythm, knowing what it needs in a World Cup, which is you've got to perform quarterfinal, semi-final, final, you've got to beat 3 Tier 1 nations, this sort of team has a feel it might be able to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, England have had one bad 40 minutes in the whole championship, and that's cost them against Wales. They were 10-3 up at half time, and you know, lost that game, but they're just full of pace, full of power. A couple of guys left out. It's good to see Mark Wilson, who's a bit of a dog in the squad, back in ahead of Shields. So yeah, it's for me, this English team, if Wales win, then the championship is theirs. It's over, and this English team will be talking about it. Lads, let's go out, let's throw it around, let's try and dominate these guys by keeping the ball alive. I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
I'm looking at that back row, the Wilson, Vunipola, Curry. I think at the beginning of this championship, you knew what Vunipola brought to the party.
Yeah.
I sure would say I didn't know about the Wilson, Curry either side of them. They've been impressive.
Speak about a balance in the back row, and as you said, you know, Billy carries all day. Curry's going to make his tackles, you know, poach the ball, and Wilson just does the dirty work, and it's just such a good balance. I mean, Brad Shields was good last weekend, but I think he was kind of put in there as a bit of a refresher type thing, you know.
Yeah.
Wilson's been brilliant in the first two games, and
yeah, you agree with that, Stephen? Are you happy with that as a back row?
I am, and you were talking about Sergio Parise. It's almost like Billy Vunipolo's playing like Sergio Parise used to play 4 or 5 years ago.
That's
10 years ago, maybe.
Standing in the backfield, trucking ball up. You know, when he hits contact, he's looking for the offload, getting the half line breaks. But yeah, he's an absolute superstar. And you know, Marco Vunipolo's obviously a miss, but you know, Ben Moon's in there, tremendous scrummager. And I fancy this team all day long to give Scotland a bit of a hype.
18 points. It's good.
18 points. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's have a look at the Scotland team, because the Scotland, look, let's call it what it is. For me, Scotland have been the disappointment of the Six Nations Championship. France has been flaky for a long time. Scotland were showing promise.
Ral, how many times have you said that over the last 5 years about Scotland? You know,
I've been saying it for 10 years about France, so it feels a bit more recent than Scotland.
For me, like, obviously they got a tremendous victory last year against
They've also
England.
shipped some injuries. I think it's important to say that. You've got to say that, right? But still, they've been disappointing.
They have been disappointing. One guy that I'm looking forward to seeing is Hamish Watson. He came off the bench and caused havoc last week, so he's very explosive, powerful. If there's one guy that can give Scotland a bit of go forward, it's him. But yeah, for me, they're just too loose, make too many errors, and you know, their defence can be shaky at times too. So I think England are going to exploit that massively.
You have anything to say about the Scotland team?
They were just embarrassing last week, weren't they? They were just errors. Even granted, their try was nice, but it was a forward pass. I just don't fancy them. No, I mean, England, it's a lot of points to cover, but I don't have a lot to say about the Scottish team.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? Let me ask you this, because I think they have talent, but we've talked about momentum in one direction.
Yeah.
But when momentum starts going against you, like, how hard is it as former players to?
It can work in two ways. I mean, a squad can just get toxic and just kind of repel any kind of desire of getting better and just get even worse, or it can spur them on a bit. I don't know any of the characters or any of the people personally in the squad, so I don't know what the kind of vibe is in the squad, but you would hope they're going to get inspiration from, you know, going up to Twickenham or down to Twickenham and having to play the old foe England, you know.
I totally agree with that, but there's been so much change in terms of the team. So like, if it was the same team playing week in, week out, and they were getting beaten, then I think it would be a lot more toxic. But because there's so many changes every week, then I think these guys will still have a bit of belief that they can go and try and get something out of the game.
Okay, so that's Scotland. Let's have a look at the match odds and see if we can decide what the best way to go about this one is. -18 England.
I think the 1-16 tells you a lot, that it's a bit of a no contest, this game. You touched on all the injuries. It's spoiled the end of the tournament a little bit, the lack of depth that Scotland have. But yeah, I don't think you can look too far beyond the -18. Your best point to get a little bit of value maybe is to have a look at the winning margins and find some value there, because to me it looks very obvious that England win this by -18. We mentioned, I think off air, if Wales do the job, England's heads are going to be on. I think even if Wales don't do the job, you know, I think England are going to enjoy themselves and have a bit of fun here.
Dominic?
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of points, and do you think Scotland are going to calculate a cup game, or Scotland going to put it together? If you had to, I really would probably no bet But
yeah, it's one to sit back and watch maybe.
I'd do -18 because
If you were going somewhere, yeah.
yeah.
Let's have a look at the first try score market, and we'll give Stephen his final opportunity to.
I think his odds are cut. It was 12-1 last year.
Your influence.
That's a good price again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be going to the corners looking for tries.
Yeah, no, Dominic and I were chatting earlier on, and I think that as soon as they get a penalty kick to the corner, if there's a sacked ball or anything, they'll kick to the corner again. And maybe 7 out of 10 times, Jimmy George's hands will be in the ball. So I think 11-1, Jimmy George score first try like he did last week would be my bet.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask you. We're all saying England and England by a significant number. Yeah. Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure. I want to do one thing before we finish, seeing as this is our last show. I want to ask you to leap forward to the World Cup, and we're going to say New Zealand and who. Because I know all three of you are going to say New Zealand are going to be there or thereabouts in terms of the World Cup. But on the strength of the Six Nations, knowing what we know about Argentina, South Africa and Australia, having an idea of what the draw looks like, New Zealand and who for you for the World Cup?
I mean, people prior to the Six Nations were talking up Ireland, and personally I don't see it. Having been slightly involved in the lead up to the last World Cup, I think Joe Schmidt got it wrong last time. There's his method, he had people in camp too long. They just got tired towards the end of the tournament. They're completely burnt out. They were in from early June, getting on for 5 days, weekends off, 5 days. It was so intense for 3 months before a World Cup. I think the lead up was wrong, and hopefully if you can get the lead up better this time about, people won't be as burnt out. But I think we saw that against Argentina in 2015. The lads were just they had it.
Okay, so you're saying I'm going to push you back. New Zealand and who?
Go England. Why not?
New Zealand and England.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
How about you?
have the power.
I still think there's a lot to this Irish team. I know, as I said, look, there's a lot to be learned from last time and from this tournament. I don't just want to look at. I hate the idea that the Six Nations is sort of a learning tournament. We should have gone and won this. This is a disappointment, but I still think there's more to the Irish team. I don't think they'll fizzle away in this. I think they're about 9-2 at the moment for the World Cup. It's a little bit short, but I could see them reaching the final.
So New Zealand and Ireland for you are the two. Okay, and how about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I fancy South Africa. I think they're a team that's full of power. They seem to put in big performances at World Cups. They seem to peak when it comes to the World Cups. And they've got so much ability in their team. So, yeah, if there's a dark horse, what price South Africa?
I think they're around 8-1 if not a little bit bigger.
They beat New Zealand twice. And
Sure. And they have a depth. They have a depth. Anyway, look, that's all to look forward to. But thank you very much. I'm going New Zealand, France, by the way. No, I'm not. Thank you very much. On the spread. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your company. We've really enjoyed being with you. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon.